My family has always picked on me and said I looked like my sister because I wasn't pretty. But now I'm getting married to a rich man, and they want to come to the wedding. My parents and older sister Kelly 25F lived in a middle-class home with me 23F. My parents were academics, so it was clear that they had high goals for Kelly and me. Kelly was a great student who looked like a Greek goddess. I, on the other hand, wasn't as smart or beautiful. She was a little overweight, but she was good at art from a young age. If someone says that looks don't matter in society, they've never been ugly, because I had to deal with hatred from my family. I knew why my parents were yelling at me about my schoolwork, so I thought it was okay, but they always ended up putting down my looks and saying I couldn't even pull off the stupid blonde stereotype if I failed at everything else. They kept comparing me to Kelly. Kelly didn't say much, but I could feel her eyes on me as we walked to school. It was like she didn't want to be seen with me, even when they were kids. When my family members tried to praise me for my achievements at family gatherings, my parents would cut them off and make jokes about how bad I looked, likening my face to animals. Because they were the guests, they got some awkward laughs, but the damage they did to me was lasting. I felt bad about how I looked all the time, which made me create a shame complex. I was afraid of being judged, so I rarely talked to people or took part in school events. The school counselor saw me drawing while sitting in an empty class and told me to join the upcoming poster contest. I said no, so she chose to talk to me about it to find out what was going on. When she heard about my problem, she called my parents right away and asked them to get me in touch with a doctor because their constant criticism wasn't helping. So they wouldn't be seen as uncaring, they chose to put me in treatment. Things went well for a few years after that, and my doctor helped me finally build my self-worth. However, this didn't change how angry my folks were. They made fun of how I looked, and when I told them I didn't like it, they told me I should learn to laugh at myself. Back then, I made up my mind to leave. When I turned 18. When my 18th birthday finally came around, my parents made sure it was all about me. Kelly got a job to be a model. Kelly got into a well-known college. Kelly is the best was all I could hear at the party. My maternal aunt was the only one who spoke up. She told everyone it was my birthday and that we should talk about me instead. Everyone agreed except my family, who didn't like it when my aunt spoke up, so they didn't say anything for the rest of the party. I cried in my room after the party, even when it was time to sing happy birthday the next day. I called a friend, who helped me find a small apartment. I already had money saved up from my part-time job, so I didn't have to worry about money. Moving away didn't bother my family at all. Do not worry about. They didn't know I was leaving for good until I started putting boxes of my stuff in my friend's car. They didn't say anything except that their house will look cool now that I'm gone. This year, Kelly was also going to college, and as a surprise, she gave me a book she liked as a goodbye gift. That year, I studied and worked very hard. I found that I loved software engineering, and I was lucky enough to get into a very good school. I hadn't talked to my parents since I moved out, so I asked them to come to my graduation. When I got home, the door was locked. When I called them, they finally answered and told me they couldn't make it to my graduation because they were on vacation outside of the country. When they heard I got in, I thought they would change their minds and offer to pay for my fees like they did for Kelly. But all I got was, "Oh, that's great. Good for you." I hung up the phone and went straight to my aunt's to ask them to come to my graduation. As we talked, I quickly broke down in tears because of how disconnected my family was being, and she promised to be there for me from then on. The next month, I went to college in a different place. After 6 years, I worked as a software engineer at a good company, and as an independent graphic artist. In the past few years, I haven't had much of a relationship with my family. I was only asked to big family events, but most of the time I was made fun of, so after a year I stopped going. If you ask my aunt, she let me stay with her family for the whole Christmas season, so I guess I didn't miss my family. The company I worked for was very casual, and there wasn't a clear leader among the employees. When our company needed someone to update its brand, I stepped up. I was asked to work with someone someone I had never met before at work. Let's call him Rob. Rob and I became good friends while working on the project for 3 months. After work, we started going out together and soon realized it was more than just a friendship. By the end of our work together, I knew he was the CEO and founder of the company. But it didn't bother me because he was just Rob. After meeting for a year, he asked me to marry him in a very fancy way while we were in Paris. I was so happy, and my aunt was the first person to tell me. The next day, I called my family members and put a message on Facebook to let the rest of my extended family know. It was a surprise when my mom called me for the 3rd time in almost 7 years. She looked happy and praised me, and then she asked me to a family dinner the next day, a weekend. I thought about it and told her yes. The dinner wasn't at my house, it was at a fancy hotel. I saw my folks and my sister Kelly, who was looking for work after college. Even though my family tried to be nice to me, I stayed alert. When they asked about the wedding, I told them I hadn't made any plans yet. They broke character at this point, and I knew why they wanted to meet me. They begged me to let them be a part of my wedding. They made requests after being missing for over 7 years and only showing up when they needed something. I was shocked by this and made it clear that it would be my choice once I made it. I asked about the bill since they weren't talking. I thought we'd go Dutch, but they told me I had to pay the full price since I was now getting married to this rich man. That was enough for me, so I paid the bill and left without saying goodbye. Rob and I talked about this, and he told me that the wedding would be just the way I wanted it, with only the people I wanted there on my special day. My parents called me every day after that to tell me I should ask them to the wedding, because we were family and family came first. At first I was hesitant because of what happened at the last dinner, but after they apologized over and over for how they treated me as a kid, and since then, I chose to be a bigger person and give them another chance. I told them my dad could walk me down the aisle and my mom and Kelly could be my girls. That was fine with them. When they started shopping for the wedding, things started to go badly. They asked me to pay for the most expensive things they got from stores. I told them I would give them names to look at and that I wouldn't be paying for anything. They tried to get me to agree by acting nice, but I said no. Rob and I chose to tell everyone in my hometown about our engagement 5 months before the wedding. We would then plan the guest list around that. So, I asked my family and a lot of other cousins to come to the party to celebrate the proposal. Everyone knew that because Rob was CEO, a lot of important people would be asked to every event. It made my parents very happy to be a part of this. My aunt called one day and said she wanted to talk to me in person. Everything was going ahead as planned, as soon as possible. In the next few days, I met her, and she told me that my family was planning to hurt me. She said that my mom knew how much I didn't like them, or Kelly, and was planning a show for when I told everyone I was getting married. Since my dad had retired, their finances had gotten worse by the time they sent Kelly to college. My mom had been the family's main source of income, and since Kelly wasn't working after college, they needed money badly to keep up their social standing. They tried to make things right with me when they found out I was engaged to a rich man. They thought that if I understood their situation and gave them money right away, I would become their ATM. After I stopped them, though, they planned to take a pretty smart method. The first plan was for Kelly to be my maid of honor so that she could be paired with one of the guys. That didn't seem likely since I wouldn't go along with their pranks and kept control of my wedding, so they came up with something worse. They bought cheap fake jewelry online and were going to give it to me at the engagement party, saying it was a real piece for Kelly. If they found me with the chain, they would hide it in my backpack and act like they stole it. When they found it in my bags, they would accuse me of stealing it in public, and of everyone, and my fiancé might give them some money in return. I'd pay their bills and have Kelly as my mistress. The bravado of my family shocked me, and I started to cry. My aunt comforted me by saying that she had called me as soon as she heard about the plan to let me know what my parents were going to do at the party and what I was going to do next. After giving it some thought, I asked my aunt not to tell them that I knew about it because I planned to give it back to them. While my mom was putting her necklace in mine, I told my aunt that we could get a copy of the necklace and put it in her bag. Her shame would. Whoa, will know no limits when she saw the necklace she said I stole in her suitcase. Maybe that will make them think twice about making it to shame me in the first place. My aunt agreed right away and was totally on board with the plan. It was time for my engagement party. My mother didn't know I knew about her plan, but everything was going as planned. She showed it to me and then cried and grabbed my dad and Kelly, saying that her valuable jewelry was lost. I quickly reached into my bag and took out the necklace, which I then gave to my aunt with care. So I called my mom and asked what was going on with her. The necklace's loss was my fault since I had it last, and she asked me to check my bags. I tried to calm her down by telling her to check her bags before blaming anyone else. Then I took her bags. Then I took it open to show everyone the necklace. My family was surprised by how quietly everyone was talking about them, before they could say anything. They used to make me the cause of all their problems when I was younger, but I told them out loud that it was no longer going to work, and that even though I wasn't as pretty as they were, I had much better morals, which was what mattered in the real world. They didn't say a word for the rest of the party and left early, feeling ashamed. The next day I got several voicemails from my parents and other relatives telling me that I shouldn't have brought up the past when they had already tried so many times to make things right, that the necklace wasn't my fault, and that I should feel bad about attacking their character. Now that I think about it, making fun of them was enough. Maybe I shouldn't have said anything about their personality, since it doesn't affect me or them. So AITA, you doubt my family's character on purpose after they tried to hurt my image at my engagement party? Thanks to everyone who replied and gave me advice about my situation in the first update. A lot of people have said that in light of this, I should stop talking to my family, but I'm getting off track. I haven't talked to them in years, and it never occurred to me to do so because they are my family. In the comments, I told my aunt about this story. She also told me to be honest with them once if I wanted to give our relationship a fair chance, which I thought was a good idea. I went to my parents' house for dinner a week after the birthday party. They hadn't gotten in touch with me after not getting a response to their accusations that I made them look bad. They were pretty cold when I got there and didn't say much until I brought something up. I sat them down and told them how I learned about their plan. I then told them that their silence wasn't because they were proud, but because they didn't know what to say. To really try to understand them, I told them everything I didn't like about them from when I was a child, see things from their point of view and fix our relationship. I was surprised that they were very kind and sorry very much for what they tried to do at my engagement party. Even though they said they were sorry, I couldn't fully believe them after what happened at the engagement party. I went to the store to look at my dress and make any last-minute changes because the wedding was coming up soon. I had originally planned to bring my aunt, but to make new friends, I also chose to bring my mother and sister. Something I forgot to say before. People didn't think of me as the ugly one anymore because I lost a lot of weight in college. At least they hadn't so far. When my aunt saw me wear the dress, she started to cry at the fitting, but my mom and Kelly didn't say anything. I asked them if there was anything else they wanted to add in their general look. But they said no, so I took off the dress and packed it. Kelly walked up to me out of the blue with this fancy-looking satin dress and suggested that it be my bridesmaid's dress. That outfit was really beautiful. But when she saw how much it cost, she said they couldn't give it up. At the time, I didn't offer to pay for it, but since my mom and sister were in my wedding party, I bought it for them. Then we all went. I bought the clothes the next day and gave them as gifts. A few days after our visit, my cousins kept pestering me about little details about the wedding, like the color of the flowers, the guest list, and the fun that would be had. In the beginning, it was awkward. But I stood up for myself and told them I would ask for their help straight. This may not have gone over well with them, because what happened next was a terrible train wreck. After they left, my mom called me about an hour later. If she didn't answer when I picked up the phone, I thought she might have called me. As I was getting ready to hang up, I heard her and Kelly talking about me in the bar. They made fun of my wedding dress, saying I would never be able to wear something like that again. They were also shocked that I could attract such a good-looking and wealthy guy when I wouldn't even work as a maid in his house. They then made fun of me by calling me an off-putting B-word and saying they wished they could get to my wealth without ever seeing my face again. I'd had enough at that point, so I stopped the talk and straight away broke down. It hurt me so much to see how mean my mom and Kelly were being, like typical bullies. The next day, I called my aunt and told her what had happened. She came to my house to comfort me and tell me that I was in charge of the situation and that she would always be there to back up whatever choice I made. I was lucky that my phone recording was on during the call, so I had proof of what they said in case they tried to deny it. Now I have to make some tough choices, and I won't be able to do that without getting even. Update 2, I guess you were all right when you said I should have cut off my family after they attacked me at my engagement party. Now I'm following your advice but with a twist. I wasn't going to include my mom and Kelly in the wedding party, but I still wanted to know what my dad thought. I called him, and then went to see him that day while my mom and Kelly were shopping. I told him everything that happened in the store and on the phone, but he didn't agree with me. Instead, he kept telling me to remember my place. I asked him what he was talking about, and he said he was sick of asking for money. I knew I should have given him money right away. I told him he should have asked for it. He should have tried to connect with me instead of using me as a joke in family chats and constantly comparing me to Kelly if he thought I would understand everything going on with them, without him having to say a word. He told me to remember that they raised me until I turned 18, and that they were the reason I was here today, even though I was mean to them. The thing he said made me feel sick, and I finally understood that this family wasn't really mine. During my youth, they hurt me and pushed me to the edges. When they smelled money, they ran back like dogs. After that, I didn't say anything else and left. For the next 2 days, I didn't hear from anyone in my family, so Dad hadn't told Mom and me, Kelly, about our conversation, and I finally had time to come up with a plan to reveal them. Following talks with Rob and my aunt, I chose to plan a bachelorette party for my aunt, my mom, and Kelly. I would go somewhere out of the way to have the party, sneakily set up cameras, and ask them to play truth or dare with me. In the game, I would ask them questions about the things they were talking about on the call. If they lied, I would show it, and if they didn't, I would tell the truth. The party for the bachelorette took place the following weekend. My mom and Kelly were so happy because they were getting paid to do it that they drank a lot. They were very nice to me, which meant they didn't know I understood everything, so I started to ask them questions while my aunt sat next to me to make sure I was right. There wasn't much to worry about with the first few questions, but they quickly figured out that I was asking about a private conversation between them. They got better right away and kept lying to try to take the focus off of what was going on. Since they didn't answer right away, I pulled out my phone and played the recording of their chat for them. After that, they both stopped talking quietly. A few seconds later, they showed who they really were. They started to talk badly about me, saying that Kelly was the real star and I should never have had such a great life. They said I wasn't part of their family since I was born, and that they knew it because I played games with them instead of helping them with money. That made me feel terrible to hear. But I was strong and told them that they were being filmed, and that they would have to accept that they would not be at my wedding if they didn't want the video to be shared on Facebook. Telling them I didn't want to invite them to the wedding would have made people doubt our relationship, and I didn't want that to be the focus. I saved them the shame. Plus, I told them I wouldn't see their faces again after the wedding. I also told them they shouldn't hang out with me just to get special treatment in the future, and that they needed to return the clothes I gave them right away, or pay me for them. The mother and daughter were very angry and quickly called a taxi to leave. Since my aunt and I had the land all to ourselves until the next day, we made the most of it. We saw it as a party of our win over my family. When I asked my aunt to walk me down the aisle instead of my dad, she started to cry and then said yes. I'm waiting for Kelly to return the dresses because I know she and her mother can't afford them. The wedding is in less than a month. 3. I'm sorry for the late update. The reason for it was all the congratulations on my wedding, which is why it was late. After telling my family to stay out of trouble until my wedding, I thought things would calm down quickly. But that didn't happen. The gowns I sent to my mom and Kelly still hadn't arrived a week after the bachelorette party. But I didn't want to start a fight so close to the wedding, so I chose to handle it later. My aunt called me that day and told me to check Facebook. My whole family had turned against me and written a long, 5-part Facebook post about how I had been mistreating them ever since I got the money. They made up a lot of things, like telling everyone about my early mistakes and trouble. But they were bad because I did them while kids were around. At the end of the message, they asked everyone for help because I was trying to get money from them. My aunt said a few things about how they were lying, but as I thought would happen, the comments that supported me were taken down. A lot of people told my parents they were being too honest about my childhood. All they could say was that they had been through it all and did. Don't think everyone will get it. They doxed me by putting my phone number in the letter, which led to several calls from family members trying to convince me to get a ticket to my wedding. Rob saw the post. He told us to sue them for lies and harassment. But I told him I didn't want to work with them anymore. I went crazy and shared videos of them calling me names and obviously being mean to me because I was ugly, along with my side of the story. I wrote in the piece that they were no longer welcome at the wedding, and that they needed to pay me for the dresses I gave them as a gift. If they didn't, my lawyer would be calling them soon. Many people who had been on their side before watching the video quickly changed their minds and started fighting them. Instead, they thought I was lying when I said I would release the tapes and tried to scare me into giving them what they wanted. They couldn't hide when I played the face-down Uno card. They were in a lot of trouble because they hadn't thought things through. My maternal grandma sent me a few emails begging me to forgive them. But her attitude changed when I told her she could choose not to go to my wedding if she wanted to help my family. The next few weeks were very busy, but I had carefully planned everything. I even hired security guards for my wedding site because I knew they would show up, which they did. Because my dad was too proud to take part, only my mom and Kelly wore the clothes and showed up as if nothing had happened. They had a temper tantrum when they were turned away. Rob told them to leave, or they would be arrested for trespassing on private land before the important guests arrived. They chose to have little to spare, but not before getting angry with me while I watched from the window. To top it all off, Mum stepped on a fountain by chance as they were leaving, setting it on fire and destroying both her and Kelly's clothes. After that, everything went smoothly at the wedding. My aunt walked me down the aisle, and most of my family apologized for how they had behaved. It was my plea that they forget about it and enjoy the wedding, which they did. Update 4: This is the last news about what happened. So, while I was on my vacation, Kelly and my mom mailed the clothes back to me. There wasn't anything about the clothes that was important, it was about making a statement. Rob refused to drop the case against my family for trying to. They wanted to spread lies about me. But I said no because their Facebook posts had already hurt me enough, and the fact that I wouldn't have a bad family made me truly happy. Even though I'm pregnant, my aunt is still the person I trust the most. She might be the perfect grandmother for my child. Anything new about my family? The only thing I know is that my dad is now drinking too much. My mother keeps saying bad things about me, and Kelly has left the city to start over and tried to send me an SMS to say sorry. Seriously, I don't care because they ended our relationship for no reason, and now that I'm happy, I don't want to put my peace at risk by making fake excuses.